We have an audience too. No Yeah. Crush.
All right.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. I'm great. How are you doing, Lynn?
Thank you for meeting with us.
Of course. Happy to meet with you.
Julia, you want to give us a background on kibbutz and what we do? So, obviously, you know Lynn better than me, but Lynn and I have both been here since, there were probably 5 Jersey City Jewish families, and we've seen a huge influx over the past 3 or 4 years, in particular since COVID, of a lot of Jewish families moving to the area. And although there's a number of organizations that kind of service our area that are larger Jewish institutions, our community, as you can guess, is a little bit different because it's an urban community, but technically part of New Jersey. So the vibe here is a little bit different than the stereotypical families who kind of live out in the suburbs of New Jersey. So Lynn and I decided to start Kibbutz JC as like a grassroots organization to really service the needs of Jewish families in Jersey City. Obviously, people are very urban around here. They're not necessarily, into the traditional things that you might get out in some of the more traditional Jewish structures. So we really try to make Kibbutz JC something that is, aligned with the families that live here, to also build community so people stay in Jersey City and don't use it as a step off point to, eventually move out to the suburbs. So we've done a lot of things like we have a bus to Gold Ock Academy, which I think you went there. My kids go there.
How long is that drive?
Like 25 minutes.
That's it?
Yeah, super easy. We have 12 families now to go, which is amazing.
I heard amazing.
Yeah, and growing. Every year we have like 3 or 4 new families who sign up. And I think, it's like planning in that pipeline that you don't need to move to the suburbs. You can make your Jewish life here. And I think like reviving beautiful buildings like this is also a big part of that, knowing that there's Jewish institutions.
What time do your kids get home now? I remember that from when I was there.
They get home like 4:15.
Yeah.
And then we do.
And the bus drops them in front of your house, or no?
On our corner, 5th and Jersey. So there's like 4 or 5 bus stops in Jersey City. There'll be a bus stop in the Heights, hopefully when Noah's a little older.
Yeah.
And Hoboken. So it starts in Hoboken, kind of goes through Jersey City, and then goes out like down 280, which is great.
Yeah.
And then we've done a lot of stuff, just general events like Chagim, good things. And then, what we're meeting with you about is political advocacy.
Yeah.
So it also came out of, after October 7th, there was a lot of collective trauma living in Jersey City, and a lot of the local Jews wanted an avenue to feel safe and be able to give back to the community, but also, fight back in a way. And some of the stuff that we're going to talk to you about is concerning the things that have been going on for the last year and a half. I've been here 15 years. We know each other. This is like the 10th interview. I have a lot of respect for everything that you've done in Jersey City, and looking forward to hearing more about the governor's race and kind of your perspective on things in New Jersey and Jersey City.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we get into the tougher questions, tell us why you're running for governor.
Well, I'm running for governor because I think New Jersey is in a very dangerous place. I think that both from a federal standpoint and from a state standpoint, I think being a mayor for 12 years gives you a unique perspective around affordability and healthcare and transit. And I think a lot about what New Jersey will be like in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I have a young family. I don't want to leave. I don't want my kids living with me when I'm 40, when they're 40. And I think, yeah. Well, I think,
live in Jersey City.
I think that's kind of the trajectory that we're on here, and you hear that more and more. And so I think there's a lot of things that you can fix. And Jersey City was a different place when I started 12 years ago, obviously. And I think we can make similar progress in the state.
And what do you think, like in the future of the state of New Jersey, what does Jersey City's role play in that?
I think it is arguably, one of the most, if not the most important city. I think that, look, anybody who lives in Jersey City should understand that having a governor that is from Jersey City benefits every single person that lives here. If there was one thing that I would say to a Jersey City resident is that there's nobody that understands more the Jersey City issues, challenges, and is more devoted to putting resources here than I am. And I think that if you are a Jersey City resident, you should be excited by the fact that somebody who knows all of the challenges here firsthand has the opportunity to fix a lot of the things and the resources that we've had problems with, whether it's open space or transportation or school funding. All of those things I know about Jersey City better than anybody else because I've been here. So If you live in Jersey City, it shouldn't even be a question or dialogue, to be perfectly honest with you.
And then what do you think, like, as someone who's at the top in Jersey City, where do you see the future of Jewish life in Jersey City?
I think it's growing. I mean, we're in a synagogue here that I came to for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I think one of the services, Rabbi would attest, it was a 10-person minyan, so I was very excited to start my year. I was very excited to start my year with that mitzvah. Yeah, that's correct. And so, yeah,
I have to say, I was impressed with your Torah reading.
Oh, there you go. Look, I grew up in the yeshiva, and then I went to Solomon Schechter, which became Golda Ox. So I think that, again, when it comes to Judaism and Jewish life, there's nobody that has more of a versed and deeper understanding of it that's running for governor than I do. And so, again, I think that if you're in the Jewish community and you look at the issues objectively, it would be hard to argue that I don't understand this more than others. Even if somebody doesn't agree with everything I say, it would be hard to argue against my track record.
And what do you think are the biggest issues for the Jewish community?
Well, I think the Jewish community has seen a lot of anti-Semitism rising in the last 2 years in particular, and probably the last 10 years. And you see more and more of that being accepted, and it's a real problem, not just in New Jersey, not just in Jersey City. It's a problem nationally. You certainly see it here, and I think that is going to continue to be a problem, unfortunately, unless you're thoughtful about education and how we combat that.
Let's rewind to what happened in 2019.
What happened? Oh, okay, yeah. I said what happened in 2019. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the terrorist attack. And I think for me, especially, it was a huge wake-up call. As a Jew living in Jersey City, I didn't, you come here and you see all the diversity, and I was writing about it and interviewing all these people. I was getting a lot of anti-Semitism for being in the public arena, and I thought that was kind of part of the deal. Yep. But I didn't really understand to what levels they were occurring in Jersey City until that day happened. From then on to today, do you feel that things have changed? Do you think things have gotten worse?
I think, unfortunately, anti-Semitism has existed since the beginning of time. It's not something that you could define. I don't think it's something that is easy to put in a box and say it's this or that. That's the unfortunate reality of that. It surfaces in different ways. I've seen anti-Semitism in Jersey City in a different perspective than you do. You saw it on 2019. I've seen it more consistently just because I see hate crimes more consistently across the board, and not only for the Jewish community. But obviously, I was surprised at the fact that there was a brutality of somebody looking to murder people in that way. But I wasn't surprised that anti-Semitism exists even in a place that's like diverse like this. And I think that over the last 5-6 years, you've seen more and more hate crimes, anti-Semitism included, becoming more prevalent. And I mean, I have access to that information, so I see it. It's more commonplace, largely because I think it's becoming more acceptable, and people that have hate in their heart can more easily find each other because of social media and how the world works today in connectivity.
Now, in New Jersey, according to the ADL in 2023, New Jersey has the highest anti-Semitic hate crimes per capita. If you do become a governor, what are you going to do to address that?
Sometimes having the, I mean, you could say per capita. Sometimes that stuff is because we do a better job of reporting it. Okay, so it doesn't mean that hate exists here more than it exists in New York or Florida or Alabama or Wisconsin. I would say that New Jersey does a better job of categorizing it and reporting it. So like you get into the conversation around a lot of issues like this, right? Whereas when you do a better job of actually defining it, it can also be used as a wedge to say that you have a larger problem. I would say that anti-Semitism and hate crimes are not unique to New Jersey. Like we've learned that through history. They're very prevalent in every single state across the country. And I would bet you that it's a consistent thread across the country if you were to actually look at data that was equally reporting on how state after state, municipality after municipality look at it. I think that hate is a thing that there's plenty of laws that define hate crime, and I think that executives need to be more vocal about it. You touched on 2019, and in 2019, the governor and the attorney general were reluctant to call an anti-Semitic attack. I pushed them to do that. It was an uncomfortable conversation with the three of us because they did not want to define it. They said that we needed more information. And again, I have access to information that other people don't have. It was hard to argue that. And I said to them at the time, I said that if this was a targeted attack on a different community, you would have clearly said it immediately, and the reluctance is not acceptable. And I pushed them to say, which was the right decision. So I think how you deal with it is a function of the executive. It's not a function of a definition, because anti-Semitism and hate in general changes every generation. We've learned that since the beginning of time. And I think we need to be conscious of that. And that's clearly why executive leadership is important, and this governor's race is important.
When you talk about definition,
Yeah.
I know that obviously there's been some controversy around some of the statements I think that you've made about, defining anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that. We talked about how, New Jersey might have higher hate crime statistics because people were reporting it.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Part of that reporting
Yeah.
is obviously defining what is a hate crime. So obviously now we're in this, gray zone of anti-Zionism versus anti-Semitism. And what that means. And obviously there's the, the bill that's being brought forward in New Jersey. So maybe you can elaborate a bit on that.
Okay. It's unfortunate if you take the emotion out of it, and it's hard for people to take the emotion out of it, but I would urge people to try, okay? If you take a step back and you say to yourself, let's talk about this bill and its likelihood of success, okay? It's very small. And if you don't believe me, ask yourself, why has it not been put up in the last year? The governor has the bully pulpit to do it. The speaker does. It's always delay, delay, delay. And as it gets more delayed, you also see people being peeled off as speakers and sponsors. You also see the tone in the press. I mean, if you're fair about it, the tone in the neutral press is against the bill. You could see kind of how that sentiment goes. So,
what would you define as neutral press?
Any publication that isn't, let's say, clearly slanted towards a religion or ideology. General accepted press, when reporters.
Don't you think that some of the mainstream media these days is biased?
Well,
NJ.com
but here's the thing. But here's the thing. Okay, so I'm not here to judge NJ.com. But again, if you take the emotion out of it and you say to yourself practically, you have something that clearly has a limited opportunity of success down in Trenton. If you understand Trenton, that's a fair thing to say. If you don't believe me, then ask yourself, why has it not been put up now? Why? Because they don't want to do it, because they're dangling this thing and it's become a litmus test that they don't want to engage in. But let's say hypothetically, you are able to get it put up, okay? Which I doubt, because again, the urgency of now. Let's say you have a press situation that is clearly, whether I agree or don't agree, but it clearly is slanted, whether you be biased or not. That is the neutral press today is perceived as in the state of New Jersey. And they clearly don't view this as a good bill. You could see it in the tone of their writing, okay? And so you will have 5 blocks of anti-Semites testifying against something that will likely fail, okay? And then you ask yourself, if the bill gets passed, which it likely will not get passed, but if it got passed, will it protect people in a way different than what's protected today? Because there are hate law crimes on the books today that aren't enforced. So you ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze, ultimately? And if you understand Trenton, you are putting anti-Semites together in a way that they are going to get a victory over something that shouldn't be a litmus test, ultimately. The hate laws that exist today need to be enforced. And anti-Semitism shouldn't be tolerated. But to have this as a litmus test of electability in the Jewish community is silly.
So I guess the question...
Let me just say, I'm not done, Julia. I want to say that the fact of the matter is that, again, there isn't a person running for office that has my track record on Judaism. Not a person that has my track record on anti-Semitism. And I don't take money from any sides on this thing. I'm saying it because what's best. I have 3 Jewish kids. My wife converted. We're the only municipality with a sukkah. I got thousands of emails over a flag raising today. There's nobody else that stands up like that.
My question is, you personally, Steve, do you think the definition, the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism is the correct definition?
No, I don't think you should try to define something that changes.
Not to pass the bill.
No,
I'm asking
no,
the definition
no.
listen.
I do not think that you could define anti-Semitism in a box. And I think anybody who thinks you can is being not realistic about history. And I think you're going to put yourself in a position where this is the definition, and clearly there's going to be something outside the boundary that's going to happen, because it's happened throughout history. And people will then say, that doesn't fit the boundary. That doesn't fit the definition. And because we're in this place since October 7th, where we feel threatened, and rightfully so, People are holding on to this piece of legislation as if it's a panacea. South Orange will tell you. They will tell you. They passed it in 2018. The IHRA definition, it has changed nothing with regards to anti-Semitism. Nothing. So, like, to think that we are going to put blocks of anti-Semites, put ourselves through the press ringer in order to do this, and the government right now in Trenton dangles this thing in front of people without it ever moving. So it's like a crazy thing. I go back, Julia, to the fact that there isn't a person that has my track record on this. 2019, the sukkah. Today, we have a flag raising. I've gotten thousands of emails.
You didn't have one last year, though. Why
Well,
did you
we
decide
did
to
it.
cancel
Yeah,
one
I
last year?
canceled it because at that point, there were security risks from both sides. You don't see what we get ultimately. You don't see how that works.
I mean, we know they're doing like a die-in today.
But it's a totally different animal from what it was last year. You guys don't have perspective on that. So you could speak to it from an emotional. No, you don't. No, you have it from a different point. You don't see it in the same way. And you can't compare that, because when people make threats in a government situation, whether it's violence or however that is, and it's different than when it's directly on you on social media. It's not the same. We make decisions around safety of big people. That's the way that works in that situation. That's the responsibility.
We've both been dogs.
I'm not minimizing that. I'm saying for you to say that it's the same thing when you've been doxxed or on Instagram or social media versus a large event that can happen where there's a massive security threat. Those are not the same, Julia. Those are just not the same.
So
Those are not the same. Okay,
I don't disagree.
Yeah, so we make decisions.
Where I come from as an Israeli is, and then you tell me if you agree, is I feel that sometimes, and this isn't to you only. I think that in America we have a tendency to back down from these violent people, and I think it sends a message that if you're violent, if you're loud, if you're crazy, then you will get what you want.
No.
And I personally think that that's the wrong approach.
Okay.
I would love,
I can answer that, Julia. First of all, we canceled not only the Israeli one, we canceled the Palestinian one last year. We canceled both of them.
I don't think that was right to do either.
We did it for the same reasons, okay? Because there are security and risk issues that we do around this stuff. So we're clear, okay? With regards to track record and defending Jews or Judaism or fighting back against anti-Semitism, there are a lot of laws on the book today. There's no shortage of that stuff. It's a matter of enforcement. You have tons of laws on everything, unfortunately, from the environment to housing to flooding to hate crimes to everything, and things selectively get enforced as a reflection of the administration ultimately, okay? And so if you are fair and practical about this stuff, and you think about it from not an emotional standpoint, and you think what is best and most strategic in order to combat anti-Semitism, this is not the best way to do it. It's a litmus test because people feel threatened today, as they should, and they're looking for something for people to hold on to say that the government cares about me. That's what this is ultimately is, that the government is looking to protect me, which is important. But a piece of legislation won't do it. What you need is an executive and an administration that will say, yeah, that's not acceptable. And I have a track record on that second to none.
I have a simple question.
Shoot.
Do you believe anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism?
Anti-Zionism is what? Criticizing Israel? How would you define it? So explain.
Against the state of Israel's existence. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think you should be against the. Yes, if you're against, yes, I believe yes, it's a Jewish state. Absolutely, I do believe that that's anti-Semitism.
So I work in finance. I have a very large global team, and like you said, a lot of the times people get really worked up about big problems that happen within the firm, big business deals, billion-dollar deals that could potentially go, sour. And people get really emotional, and you have to deal with a lot of different, 90% of my job ends up managing people's emotions. And I agree with you in that respect that a lot of the issues is because people get, very emotional and scared about what's happening. But I also know as a leader, a lot of what ends up calming the situation down is twofold. One is reassurance to people, and the second, and managing those emotions. And the second is, creating some kind of strategy of how it's going to be addressed. I guess for us as a Jewish community, I think that those two things have been lacking in Jersey City. I don't think that we've gotten the reassurance that we wanted from the administration that people cared about this. I mean, I never went to a city council meeting before the ceasefire resolution existed. And I was horrified at the first meeting I went to because I heard people who got up there not to speak about the ceasefire resolution, but rather they'd get up to the microphone and they'd talk about public housing and say, oh, it's the Jews, it's the Jews' fault. And all the city council members sit there and don't say anything. And I guess the expectation, at least for me, and I don't want to speak completely on behalf of the Jewish community, but I do know that that's a continued stress, is that as a Jewish mayor and someone who values his Jewish identity, I think it's been a little surprising that you haven't been more outspoken that that is unacceptable. And those kinds of things are I think people look to you as a leader.
Let's talk about that for a second, because again, reassurance and track record. There isn't a person, whether it's 2019, whether it's putting a sukkah in this environment, whether it's the thing today that we're talking about in the Israeli flag raising, you could always poke holes in something, but it's not fair, because if you look at somebody's body of work and you look at the self-interest I have for my family, what you're saying is categorically not fair, okay? And it is because of emotion, what you speak about personally, because you feel threatened, as rightfully so, as a Jewish person, that you're internalizing and looking to say to me or somebody else, okay, this is the person that we hold responsible. You have 9 elected council members. I don't attend those council meetings, okay? Nor do I see the minutes of what people say in that setting. I see the ordinances that are passed or not passed. It's the council people that sit there that should be commenting on that. Every single time that something surfaces regarding anti-Semitism, okay, that is on my plate, I say something about it. Okay, we take things down every single day immediately, and we also try not to elevate it. But I'm going to go back to something that you said also. You said that there could be an ordinance or a resolution on the council agenda today not related to the ceasefire about housing, and people will go there and say the Jewish community is so and so, and you'll say that. Okay, I'm not disputing that. I wasn't there. I'm not disputing it. You were there, so it's true. 9 people on the city council, and none of them say anything. Each of them is elected. They're not elected by me, but they're elected, okay? Now, I'm going to bring it full circle, okay? You brought up the IHRA definition, and I told you earlier about the politics and the reality of Trenton, and if you understand and you take a step back on it, I'm going to tell you that on a housing ordinance, you have people doing that. What do you think it's going to look like when that bill is up there? It's going to be 10 blocks long of those people doing that same thing with a press situation. And the narrative is going to be at that situation that it failed. And it failed because Jewish people thought they have different standards or different expectations. And we collectively will sit there and say, well, that's not true amongst ourselves. But that doesn't further anything fighting anti-Semitism. It doesn't. It's actually counterproductive, ultimately. And so from it's counterproductive because
if you get a whole bunch, I sat through the...
Because it exists today and we know it, and you need education and you need strong leadership. You don't need to aggregate these people together into a room to promulgate hate and demonstrate the fact in a narrative that the Jews in New Jersey, the Jewish community, have a different set of standards as it relates to this. Look, the politically easier thing for me to do from the beginning, okay, and I hope the community acknowledges this and respects this, the easier thing politically for me to do was to say, of course, this is a good thing, and that we wouldn't be having this conversation, and you guys would be doing cheerleading and being very excited that this is the guy, okay? But I tell you what I think is best for my kids and for your kids, and that's how I look at it. I know this stuff inside out as far. I don't know everything, but I know the Trenton stuff, and I know the politics and the government actions, and I know why things don't move when they don't move and how people dangle things. And ultimately, I think the Jewish community is doing a disservice by making this a litmus test. And I say it time and time again, if it gets to my desk, I won't veto it. I'm not looking to be punitive. Of course, I'm looking to protect people. But the reality is that it'll never get there. And you know how I know it won't get there? Because the governor hasn't said anything today. The speaker could put it up tomorrow. The Senate president could put it up tomorrow. Sponsors are getting peeled off all the time. The media doesn't like it. I mean, you could see the writing on the wall, and we, because we feel threatened, say this is the litmus test on a politician or an elected official. It's wrong. I'm not going to tell people that they got to do what they got to do, but I think it's fundamentally wrong. And they're doing.
What do you think is the good approach? If you think this is the bad approach, what do you think is the good approach? What would be your plan as governor?
The good approach and the right approach is having an executive with a track record of actually standing up in tough situations and doing the right thing. Nobody has that record that I do.
But what would your plan be to address anti-Semitism?
Well, I think there are places that you look in the past year that the governor could have been more forceful or more assertive. Use Rutgers as an example. College campuses, clearly. Hate crime conversations. 2019, we
So
talked
as
about the.
governor, what would you do
I've been
to
vocal.
clean up records?
I've been vocal my whole life when I see something. I've been vocal my whole life, and my track record speaks to that. I'd be the same as the governor. So when people are punitive over the IHRA bill, it comes back, and I'm like, if you take a step back and you're fair about it, I'm not saying it because it's politically expedient. The Muslim community is mad at me. The Jewish community is mad. I'm telling you because it's the right thing that I'm telling you. I believe it and I know it to be true. I'm wrong about a ton of things politically and governmentally. This one, from a process standpoint, I'm not wrong on.
So, but as governor, what would be a better plan to address it?
The better plan is more education when people are young around anti-Semitism, investment into those sort of dollars. More.
Create a bill to create Holocaust education.
Yeah, I think I have a Holocaust survivor family. Of course, I support that. I think it's very, very important that people understand the atrocity and the murders that happen, and that stuff doesn't get erased. Of course, I think that's important.
And I think, and at least for me, my family is not Eastern European, so we don't have Holocaust. I know Lynn's family has Holocaust history. Yeah. I guess the question that I have to you is, I think, and this is, I think where Israelis or like the IHR definition, there is, for me at least, speaks to me a little bit more, is that I think modern day, like when we always say the Holocaust, I think it denies so much of the Jewish story of persecution. My husband's family is from Yemen. So many Israeli, Lynn's family is, and my family are also Moroccan. I think that there's so much history involved in the Mizrahi story that people don't understand, and the oppression that our families faced in Arab countries. And I think that story, when we focus on, the typical Jewish experience, let's say like before 1970, it erases why, modern day history of Israel and the people who live in Israel, Ethiopian Jews, Mizrahi Jews, and the persecution that they've also faced in other places. So I think, as much as Holocaust education is important, if you're talking about education, don't you think that there needs to be Israel, like there's so much more to the Israel story than I think a lot of people think, like Israel was given to the Jews as
to Europe,
as like a repercussion for the Holocaust.
I can't answer that because I don't have a formed opinion or a bill in really knowing what that would. I couldn't answer that in a way that I could feel good about telling you, Julia, yes, I believe that, or I don't believe that. If people ask me, and they ask me all the time, do you believe in BDS stuff? I say no. Do you believe in the New Jersey Israel Commission? I say yes. Do you believe in moving money around from pensions? I say nobody will say the same thing in a Muslim room that I'm saying to the three of you. And I don't get credit for that from the Jewish community. And it's not fair because at the end of the day, like, there is no better advocate. There is none. And I will say it. The Muslim community will tell you that I will say the same exact thing that I'm saying here in that room. In that room. 300 of them on a Zoom call last week. And I said the same exact thing. And you know what? We have these conversations because we hold this bill as this litmus test of, is he a good Jew in elected office or he's not? And it is silly and wrong and actually counterproductive ultimately. Because you know what? The Jewish community could go and support somebody or this race ultimately is going to come down and it's forming as a two-person race. Talk about the governor's race. Okay, it's in the margin of error, me and Cheryl. Okay, and she does not have the same track record I do. She does not, and I think the Jewish community will say that. And so the Jewish community, because the IHRA bill that they may disagree with me on, and hopefully they see this and they understand the rationale of it, they will penalize me and ultimately benefit her because they will hold me responsible for something that ultimately may not even be in their best interest because they're looking for security. They're looking for somebody to say, here's a bill for me to reaffirm to you that I care about you.
So taking a step back, when you look at, the fact that we had a serious hate crime in Jersey City in 2019 and, what we've experienced over the past year and a half, do you think that anti-Semitism in Jersey City is getting worse or better?
I think it's gotten worse. And I think that post October 7th, it's gotten worse. And if I'm fair about it, then that's the only way to look at it. I don't think, the amount of protests that we've had over both the Palestinian flag raising and the Israeli flag raising from both sides. Okay, I get a ton of emails, phone calls don't stop. That didn't exist 3 years ago. 3 years ago, both of those two things went on.
No one even knew they happened.
Yeah, just the communities respectively would show up. have some food, put the flag on top of City Hall, and it wasn't a big deal. Okay. And today we're going to have this, I don't know, this die-in or whatever they're going to, whatever's going on over there. But and next week there's going to be the same thing, or whenever the Palestinian one. Not your probably, but there's ultimately you aren't. Okay, I'm not saying you aren't. There's always, I could tell you, I could see a not formal protest. I can see the traction and the people calling in and what they write and what they say. Like I could see that.
People were upset about the flyer for the Palestinian flag raising because it had a map of Israel on it.
I mean, look, I know everybody thinks that I'm the guy that does everything ultimately. I don't do the maps and the drawings. I don't do the graphics. I don't see the minutes from every comment that every city council.
It's a very sensitive time. It's a sensitive time.
Listen, I understand it is a sensitive time. I understand that. But people also need to understand that I'm not sitting there approving graphics. No, I know that, but okay. But well, I do think some people do. I mean, you said earlier, I mean, you made a comment earlier about, which I could understand how somebody could think this. I haven't been to a city council meeting because the mayor doesn't participate in the city council meeting, as you know. So when people come and speak and the lines are 50 people or 20 people or 10 people or 5 people, that is a conversation between the city council people and that constituent over there. We have a whole different pipeline of constituencies.
But like I totally get what you're saying, that you don't know the minutes of everything. And I've sat through those meetings. I would not want to read the meetings of them.
I think the city council needs to be, I think you talk about education. I think our elected officials need to get that sort of education as well as what is and what isn't anti-Semitic, because a lot of the rhetoric that's happening at city council meetings is not okay.
I mean, there was an arrest last week.
And if there was any,
so I guess a lot of people would have expected you to make a statement. I think
we've had arrests before, Julia. Okay,
but this was directly related to anti-Semitic.
We've had arrests for a lot of things again, and I don't do that. Like it's not like what I've like consistently been like. We have arrests. People get. I'm not going to say all the time get arrested, but they get escorted.
Nobody gets a special treatment where everybody goes
in that sort of
that's what I'm getting from
like in that situation, like yes, I try to treat it's a balanced community ultimately. I think that there's two folds to that. I think that if somebody says pragmatically and looks at the facts, it'd be hard to argue that I'm not a fierce protector of the Jewish community and fair. And I think even the Muslim community, if they were sitting here, they would tell you that he's fair. Okay, I don't like everything that he says, and I don't like everything that he does, but he's fair. I know they would say that, okay? And I think that's an important balance, and I don't think that I get fair enough credit for that ultimately, because it is a hard thing, particularly in a city like this that is a super diverse city. And when it comes to actions like that, I treat people fairly. I treat people exactly the same. I said the same thing to the Muslim community when it canceled the Palestinian flag raising. And that flag raising, if you look at it from their perspective, just let's be fair about this. October 7th happens, okay? That flag raising was scheduled for December. It was scheduled 9 months prior, okay? And when I said I was not going to do that, right, they were very upset with me. Why? Because they said it has nothing to do with the Middle East. They said it was scheduled 9 months before, and you shouldn't politicize this. And I said to them, I understand that you view it that way, and I view it that way. But the national narrative will not view it that way. And it's not fair, going back to fairness, to the overall city to be put in a situation where we're heightening Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, hate crimes in general over something that the larger 300,000 people aren't signed up for. And so we canceled it. And I said to them, in fairness, when we do the Israeli flag raising, we will also do the Palestinian one in a close time frame. We try to be fair. And I think that's a tough road sometimes.
It's tough to please everybody.
Well, in this job, you're never going to please anybody. I've learned that, unfortunately.
So we talked about, so I do have one more question on the matter, and then I want to move on to other New Jersey things that are important, policies that you're campaigning for. Ed and Alexander is the team that is being held hostage in Gaza.
Yeah.
He's from New Jersey.
Yep.
He's not a team anymore.
He's been out now.
Yep.
And I feel like personally, and I know a lot of people have expressed that in the Jewish community, there's been a lack of discourse on this teenager that's, from New Jersey, from the media, from state officials, and we want to hear kind of your perspective on the matter. And if you were governor today, what would you do to bring him back home? How would you bring awareness
Look,
to his story?
awareness to his story. Okay, I think that the governor can be an advocate, which I'm sure Phil is. Okay, to whether it be Joe Biden or Donald Trump on the importance of that. I'm sure he is. I mean, I'm not in those rooms. With regards to being a mayor or being in that situation, for 20 years, I've been a council person for 8 years and then 12 years in this position. And I've been very, very militant over the fact that my responsibility that people hire me for here is not federal issues. It's not even state issues. It's schools and taxes and roads and police and fire. And that's the job they want me to do. They don't want me opining on El Salvador. They don't want me opining on.
Asking as governor.
As governor, I would do. I think that I would continue what Phil has tried to do over here. I think Phil has been vocal on it, and I'm sure in private meetings he's been vocal on it. But I don't think that the governor being vocal is going to change the discourse, unfortunately, between Washington and Hamas and Israel.
But I do think that if more people understand, at least I think a lot of people aren't able to have an emotional connection to the struggle of what Israelis are going through. And I think what Lynn was alluding to is that, understanding that one of the hostages is this boy from Tenafly and that his family lives here in New Jersey. I do think that that helps humanize to a lot of people who are so far removed, as you said, from the situation, to identify and feel, a connection to wanting to help.
What do you think? What do you think the governor should be doing differently than what he's doing? I'll ask you.
The current governor?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the current governor, and when you tell me if you disagree,
I just feel like there's a lack of publications. Like you don't see it in like local media like NJ.com. I mean, we touched on that, but it just feels like if it was somebody from any other country, everyone would be talking about him. There would be flyers everywhere, and it feels like because he's Israeli, because he's a Jew, it's just the only circles
too controversial.
The only circles talking about it are Jews in the Jewish community.
I think that there's nuances to both of what you said. I think you made 2 points that I think could both coexist. I think that there's probably less awareness immediately, okay? But as a story has prolonged multiple years, okay, the news cycle, unfortunately, and I live this, not relating to this, is you're talking about 24 hours. You're not talking, like, I don't see anything that is weeks, months, minus a Donald Trump narrative. So I'm not surprised that it hasn't gotten that sort of narrative. I mean, unfortunately, that's where the world is. We see something immediately and then we move on, And I don't know what the governor or the press would do differently, because the press is in a business of trying to create narrative of selling something, selling newspapers, right? Like that's what they do, right? Clicks and eyeballs. And absent a new story around something, I don't know what they would say to drive it.
So let's move to something that's...
Why? We're having so much fun.
Like you're a dad of 3.
That's what I was going to go for. Talk to us about you said you're raising your kids Jewish. What does that look like to you guys?
I mean, look, what does that look like? I mean, they're going to go to
Goldak.
You know what? My wife converted, so she did do a proper conversion, mikvah, studying, all that stuff. I don't think they're going to go to Goldak. I wish, and I would like them to go to Goldak, to be perfectly honest with you. My younger brother's kids go to Goldak. The only reason why we would not... What grade is that? Kindergarten.
This year, kindergarten.
Lucas is, I think he's in kindergarten, or Oh, just
one?
The younger one, Naomi, is not there yet, so she'd be next year. But they're all going to go there.
I know. I'm asking because my one is there now. She's in 2nd grade, and then I have one who would be kindergarten next year, and then my littlest is the same age as Noah. So maybe they'll be in the same grade.
They might be.
My middle one's going to be in kindergarten next year.
His name is Lucas. Lucas could be going in.
Keep an eye out for him.
Lucas, that's my nephew, and so I don't think my wife Jacqueline, because I grew up where I asked that what time they get home. I grew up going to Solomon Schechter and commuting to Edison on a bus. Okay, so the same thing. I went to Rabbi Pesach Rami Yeshiva up until 7th grade or 8th grade. I would get home at like 6 o'clock. Okay, that was like my life back then, and so which is a long day. And if I had school, I mean a soccer or something, it would be 7 o'clock, right? And so I just know that she's not wired in a way where that's normal for her. So like I don't think she would ever put our kids into that situation. It's like
I could get back at 4:15.
Yeah, I know, but even like today, like you know what, what time do they get to get out?
Our kids get picked up.
Julia's
at
very
7:40.
pushy about Golda.
I am. I'm a pushy Jew about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's okay.
My kids get picked up at 7:40 and they get dropped off at 4:15.
And they get dropped off at 4:15. Yeah, I
Think about it.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I know where that conversation would go. Like, so.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's probably.
Okay, so no Golda Ak. What does Jewish
I mean,
life
look,
for your kids look like?
we celebrate all the holidays. They're going to probably go to Temple Bethel, to the school there, to have some basic Jewish education, and that's the trajectory. I'm not religious or observant. I mean, I prefer more of this type of atmosphere. That's why I came here on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. But my wife prefers less of that. You know, she prefers more equality. She doesn't like the fact with the mechitza and separation and women being in a secondary position, like in an Orthodox shul. No offense.
You got to explain to her that it's not about a secondary position.
Well,
it's not a different position, right, Rabbi?
Yeah. Well, we'll discuss some other time. Not for today. Okay. But
come on, don't you want to have a Talmudic debate right here?
No. So that's it. So I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 1-year-old, a boy and 2 girls. And, you know, look, I see them less because of this gubernatorial campaign, but I still pick them up at school every day. They're in kindergarten down in Hamilton Park.
Very, very active.
Yeah,
Dad. I see a wonder
yeah,
people
I am. I'm with them all the
trenches.
time. The gym is what's sacrificed because I haven't been for like a run now. Unfortunately, it was like a passion or like anything like that, long distance stuff, because the morning now is I try to get an hour or so with them, and then after school I'll get an hour or so, and if I happen to get home from a meet and greet in time before they go to bed, so it's kind of like finding minutes in the day at least until June 10th.
What are the issues? Because I'm obviously pregnant and maternity. I don't have like as a entrepreneur. I don't really get a maternity leave, and just I feel like the whole situation for moms and families in the state and the country is not like that great.
Yeah.
Is that part of something that you want to work on as governor?
Yeah, I think childcare affordability is a big part of it. More childcare facilities, and we've outlined a lot of how we're going to do that. I think it's a big challenge, not only for you. I think I hear it everywhere, and it has to do with a lot with how these childcare centers are funded. To be honest with you, that the state has a attendance-based system where they reimburse based on the number of days that somebody goes when they show up, as opposed to enrollment, which is somebody gets enrolled throughout the year and here's a check. And so it's very hard to run a business that way, and that's why you see less and less of them, and more financial strain on people trying to find them.
Would you ever be supportive of voucher programs for people who send their kids to private schools in New Jersey?
No, I don't think that public dollars should be going towards the private schools, and I think you get to a pretty complicated place. And again, knowing Trenton, this is something that the Jewish community advocates for consistently, and the likelihood of passing is this. Okay, but again, it's one of those. It's a thing that the Jewish community constantly advocates for, and chances of success, if you're being honest about it, is relatively small. You have a gerrymandered state legislature that is very left-leaning, and they generally side on the side, independent of me, on public education, the legislature, and they're very close to the NJEA generally, and I think all of those things make it fairly difficult to ever see a road where there is some sort of voucher program. And so,
how do you see some of the Trump administration's changes in terms of federal government affecting local, us as Jersey City residents, and then if governor,
I
how
think
would
it's
you
I think it's
deal with some
really
of
I
these
think it's really
issues?
scary. I think that in Jersey City we have 60 or 70 million dollars at risk. You get 20.
What are those dollars allocated for right now?
Where I mean, it depends what he ends up cutting, but there are things like Meals on Wheels, which are senior meal programs, and then there's some environmental programs. I mean, it's a lot of different things. So you're gonna have to make choices ultimately on priorities, and that's not a great situation. You feel a lot of people are scared, obviously with Medicaid cuts, immigrants, obviously, and I think that Trenton, there's a lot of things that Trenton could be doing to be a little bit more bold and assertive, and um, I don't think Phil is leaning into any of that stuff. I think it's a mistake, both governmentally and politically.
Okay, fun questions. Can we? Because I like the fun.
Go ahead, go ahead,
What are
Lynn.
your favorite hangout spots in Jersey City? It's like my classic question.
I have not been out in a
Where do you
long
get
time.
You go to Wonder? I know you're at Wonder
I'm
Bagel.
at Wonder
in the
Bagel
Heights
a lot.
on Central
Okay,
Avenue.
I mean,
Shout out to
The one on
Steve.
Central Avenue.
yeah, I'm at the one
The one on Central Avenue is not related to the one in downtown. Just saying.
I mean, I'm a creature. I'm a creature of habit. I mean, I go to.
What's your bagel order?
I mean, I get to go behind the counter now, so I make my own bagel. They were
You
very nice
actually
to
make
me.
your own bagel
Yeah, they
at
let me. They
Wonder
let me yes, I got free reign over there. So it's generally like an everything bagel with scallion cream cheese, and
That's
I
a
like
good
it.
one.
And
How you
I
know
like
you're a nice
Cellar.
Jewish boy.
We like Cellar a lot. My wife and I go there a lot. I like Cordo a lot. And Bread and Salt a lot. So I'm like, if you
Carbs.
realize, yeah, I'm cars, but I'm also in the Heights geographically because I have less time. So now that I'm thinking it through, I'm staying in this like tight area geographically. Like I love Lacos. I haven't been there in a long time because it's just too far.
Legendary.
Which
Just
It's an
Lacos,
Italian place
but
in Greenville.
it's
It's
far.
been open for like
50 years.
years.
I
Yeah.
still really am desperate to go to that. Was it Fox? The one that
Oh, yeah, in the house.
was it
Yeah,
called?
15
Fox
Fox,
Place.
15,
Fox Place.
15
Oh,
Fox Place. Yeah.
Maybe I'll go there for my birthday this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cabella.
Bob
Shout out to
Cabella.
Bob Cabella.
All right.
I sent you guys babka when your third.
You
was born.
did.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
did.
yeah.
I remember. That's where it was from?
Yeah.
And the rabbi is now overseeing them, so they have country.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Making moves over here in the Heights.
I see that.
So wait, how old's your baby now?
One. A little bit older than
How's
one.
toddler life treating you?
I mean, I love
The youngest is a boy?
girl,
Girl.
boy, girl, girl,
Yeah, boy,
and
girl, girl.
and it's she's how old is she? She's a year and a half, and it's like a great age. If I could just like bottle that up, just because she's
Gets
like
bad up at 2.
Yeah.
it gets it gets bad, and then
really
it gets
I'm in the
yeah.
thick of it.
She's but this age is very cute and a lot of fun, and yes.
You guys gonna have any more? Are you done?
I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I think I'm done, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that we're done. So
That sounds like someone else might not be done.
no, I mean my wife does talk about it sometimes.
She snaps back so quick.
Yeah,
God bless her.
yeah.
God
And
bless
that's the one thing that I say to her,
Right.
being like, how hard you work. We don't
Right.
want to do this. I try to like mentally get her into a place of like not wanting to do that, but we did IVF, so we could do IVF
Yeah.
again. So it's like in the realm of possibility, but
You never know. You might get a little.
I don't know. You know what? I don't want to be like 70 and have like a 20-year-old, and I feel like I'm on that trajectory already.
Yeah.
And
I would
so
like that.
I'm 40 and I'm pregnant.
My
I
father
know.
is 85. He was 50 when I was born, almost 50.
Yeah, I mean, right, well, yeah,
He was like 48 when I was born.
I know, and it was a different time
It
also.
was a different time.
Yeah, but that was old. That's old back, like yeah, relatively speaking. I guess today it's more commonplace, but I don't know. I think we're done. I think we're done.
Cool.
Are you going to stay in Jersey City?
I'm
if you become
staying.
the governor?
My wife has a business, 6 physical therapy clinics that
She's the breadwinner.
She's the I'm the trophy husband.
Who
That's
runs
what
the
I am.
world?
And
Who runs the world?
so she
No,
would.
she's awesome. I love Jacqueline.
She loves Lynn. She would never leave
Me
here.
and
So
her.
She likes you. She likes your wife more.
I think I do. Yeah.
yeah.
Just
she
saying.
she would never
No
leave
offense.
here. She would never leave here. So it's I'm staying here. My kids are here, and I actually think Jersey City is a great place to.
Are you gonna travel
raise
to
kids.
Trenton every day? Like, how does that?
Yeah,
work?
you go to Trenton every day.
What was that drive? 2 hours?
It's like an hour. It's an hour. You know what? You know what
It's all
it
the way
is.
down the turnpike.
The advantage is that you do have like a detail, because both for security, for safety, because that is part of it, but it allows you to do work in the car and allows you to do other stuff. So it's easier for somebody in that capacity than somebody like who, if you were just commuting. I'm conscious of that, but
Any podcasts you listen to?
what am I listening to? What's
Lynn's looking for something new. What's your show? What are you guys watching right now?
I'll tell you both of that. I've been poking around on podcasts on some of the political people that are going to be running for president. So I like listened to like Gavin Newsom because I was curious about him, because I got mixed feelings about him.
A lot of shit for.
Yeah, he had mixed feelings about. I don't know yet what I truthfully feel about him. So
Gavin, don't listen to this.
that's one, right? He will, right? We're watching The Last of Us season 2.
We
Yeah,
just
it's
went
too much
last
for me. I
episode.
can't watch.
Very stressful.
We saw only episode 2. We're on episode 3 now.
My husband and I have a thing about preparing for apocalyptic situations.
Okay, so there you go.
We love zombie movies, end of world movies.
I'm watching. My wife is not watching this, so if I get home late, I've been watching this Mobland on Paramount, which is like Pierce Brosnan and Tom Hardy.
Any reality shows? No.
She watches. No, I don't.
She's a Bravo girl.
She's a Bravo person. She watches them all. I was up until like season 20.
Rabbi watches Vanderpump Rules.
It's all about it.
Lynn
and I like the Israeli version of Married at First Sight. That's our show.
I was the only reality I did watch. I used to watch The Bachelor up until season 20, 21.
It's terrible. It's a terrible show.
It's gotten, well, look, when they changed the hosts, when he got canceled, essentially, I felt like it really turned, and then they started to have like the 2 hosts, and it's a terrible show.
Yeah.
It lost me actually in the last couple of years, but it was only like 3 years ago.
Kept you in for 20
I mean, 20 years. 20 years. It was like commitment.
Right,
it was commitment. Yes.
Who do you like more, The Bachelor or Jacqueline?
Oh, come on, please, come on, Jacqueline.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yes.
On that note, you're probably busy.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys spending some time. Thank you very much.
Holding your feet to the fire.
I appreciate you guys taking time. I really do.